standards and health-related measures play a critical role in shaping the flow of global trade. While tariffs still constitute an important source of distortion and economic cost, the relative role of tariffs in shaping global trade has declined due in large part to successful rounds of multilateral tariffs reduction in the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, the GATTT, and the WTO agreement. Based on the close collaboration, the European Union Commission and ACP groups have decided to cope with this new challenge with initiatives like sanitary and phytosanitary measures, the SPS, the all ACP programs, PIP and EDIS, started in 2009, and this project, the Technical Barrier to Trade, and the new ACP European Union TBT program started in 2013 in many countries around the ACP countries. The ACP TBT program general objective is to contribute to improved competitiveness and access to export markets. This program, the whole program, has a duration of 48 months, with a total cost of 15 million euro, with the first implementation period, May 2013, and the final was set to October 2015, and then extended to May-June 2016. So we are at the end of the big program. Kenya is inside of the big program of many other ACP countries. One of the main objectives of the program is to enable producer, government, agency, and other stakeholders to apply TBT standards and regulation, and through that gain, maintain market access. That means looking at the whole value chain, including market opportunities, and constraints to improve trade and integrate the global trade value chain. CAPS and KENAS in Kenya are the main beneficiary program, being the quality infrastructure related to all fields of metrology, standardization, and testing systems, quality management and conformity assessment, including certification and accreditation in the country. The overall objectives of the specific programs implemented in Kenya is to enhance Kenya quality infrastructure, in particular Kenya Bureau Standard and Kenya Accreditation Service, CAPS and KENAS, for facilitation of trade through three specific objectives. First, enhancing the understanding of the WTO TBT and trade facilitation agreements among the quality infrastructure institutions, strengthening the existing capacity of CAPS in development and harmonization of regional standards within the EAC countries, and enhancing credible conformity assessment of KENAS. The other objective is to enhance the institutional capacity of the two institutions for delivering technical assistance on quality measurement service for private sector in Kenya. The project goals have been fully completed according to the schedule agreed with the beneficiaries. Additionally, some additional tasks have also been performed in order to improve CAPS and KENAS capabilities. It's important to highlight that we consider CAPS level of standardization activities are quite good, in fact. The usual practice followed by CAPS standardization office are, generally speaking, fully adjusted to the best ones. TBT are usually introduced by government authorities with a legitimate public policy objective in mind. For example, protecting human health and safety, animal and plant life and health, or the environment, safeguarding consumers for deceptive practices. The objectives of the World Trade Organization Agreement on Technical Barriers to Trade is a preventive instrument, is to ensure that such measures do not result in discrimination or arbitrary restriction on international trade. The agreement does not in any way undermine the right of governments to take measures to pursue legitimate public policy objectives. It simply aims to ensure that such measures are prepared, adopted, and applied according to some basic principles in order to minimize the negative impact for the trade. First, transparency. A WTO member planning to introduce a measure that might have an important impact on trade should notify this to the WTO and take into account comments submitted by other countries on the draft legislation, like the notification point, like notification. Proportionality. A measure should not be more trade restrictive than necessary to achieve the legitimate goal pollution. Use of international standards. Whenever possible, international standards should be used as a basis for technical regulation. Normally, CAPS, 90% of the CAPS standards are similar or equal to the international standards, so this is a very good practice, a very good way to facilitate trade. Equivalence. WTO members should consider accepting technical regulation of other members as equivalent to their own, provided that these measures are on effective the weight of addressing the objectives pursued. The TBT agreement recognizes the important contribution that an international standard conformity assessment system can make to improving efficiencies of production and facilitating international trade. At least once every 6 months, standardizing bodies must publish their work programs and also notify the existence of their work programs to the ISO ISC Information Center or other standardization bodies. Other important provisions relate to the preparation, adoption, and application of standards. The basic conformity assessment processes entail 3 levels of work: identification of the objects of conformity assessment, evaluation of the objects against requirements, and attestation to the validity of these tests through the first party in the context of supplier declaration of conformity, through the second party doing an audit on the supplier premises, or through third party certification. The redundancies of having to test the same product for different markets only added the cost burden, which is ultimately passes on the consumer, so the cost is rising. The impact is ultimately on manufacturers. The time to market is affected because of the time necessary to get testing and certification done. There is also the issue of the cost of the third-party assessment, so time is very important on trade, especially for the production.
We have been able to train people on standards and market surveillance to ensure that they are able to provide services that will facilitate trade. When we look at standards, for instance, we realize that in trade itself, over 80% of the what we call non-tariff barriers are related to standards. And therefore, there is need to develop standards with a view to having them not act as barriers to trade. So this project, we have been able to train standards officers so that they can be able, as they develop their standards, they have to use the principles of standardization, so that as they develop the standards, the principles of transparency, openness are at the back of their mind, so that the standards they will be able to develop, they will be able to ensure that they don't act as technical barriers to trade. We have also been able to undertake a study or survey on the quality of engine oils. Basically, this is to inform so that we can have the oils protecting vehicles so that the engines can be able to last longer, and also to ensure that they reduce pollution, because there will be the element of burning when it comes to oils. So under this program, we have been able to undertake some studies on flowers, and through this study we have been able to improve the market share of flour from 19% to 38%. We have also been able to undertake some studies on leather and textile. So basically what we are saying is that we are looking at a situation where we use standards to improve the competitiveness of this product, And as we improve the competitiveness of these products, we will be able to realize a higher market share within the region and outside the region. And as we do that, we will be able to also realize the objectives of our Vision 2030, because as we trade more, it means we will be able to create more employment and wealth, and therefore we will be able to move our country and our region from a lower income to maybe a medium income and even beyond.
This project actually is very critical for us. As you have heard, Kenya is a member of WTO, and why we are having the objective of strengthening capacities of these two institutions is because it underpins trade. When we talk about standards, we also want to talk about conformity, because if you are inspecting a product for shipment and testing for shipment to the markets, for example, the markets have rules, they have requirements. So by strengthening our capacity to ensure that whoever is doing inspection, they are competent through accreditation, and that when they use standards, we'll have the product traversing through the borders without any barrier. The needs of markets are changing pretty fast, their regulations are changing, and if you know very well, like the issue of pesticides, for example in vegetables, they keep tightening because of course residues can really harm or compromise on safety of food products. So when this change, that's why the notification. And if we do not put our systems to be able to deliver according to these new regulations, then the barrier obviously comes in. In standard setting, we have the three fronts, because in some instances we have to speak a common language, so we adapt international standards and use them as is. Where necessary, we adopt with the justifications. Harmonization is also very key, particularly, for example, in our region. Yeah, we have one standard, for example, for milk or for fish fillet for the region, so that we don't have a Kenya standard, Uganda standard, Tanzania. That's a recipe for a technical barrier to trade. So we have initiatives to harmonize standards. That was also one of the capacities to have, for example, East African standard, so that when we subject milk to test in Kenya, Uganda doesn't need to retest that milk in case it's being exported there. So harmonization is very key. Harmonization of conformity assessment procedures, then acceptance of results of testing that accompany shipments. That is very, very important to increase our trade. We have had a training of, let's say, about 50 personnel from both institutions and also from the industry. Yes, because as you have seen, the quality infrastructure, much as it's the two institutions, it also spills over because there are other test laboratories, there are other inspection bodies, and other players, for example, who also contribute towards this business of strengthening the quality infrastructure institution to support our trading system.